All right, for today's video review, by special request from the comments section, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Beast Wars Transmetal Rampage. A very, very cool figure here. He's an ultra class figure from the Beast Wars toy line, so you can see he's quite large, even a little bit bigger than today's sort of leader classes. I feel like if they did a modern version of Rampage, it would have to be either a lot smaller or like go the full mile and make him a commander class. I don't know. But honestly, this guy holds up pretty well. He's not without issue, but he's a pretty decent figure, all things considered, and pretty accurate to the show. He's got this lovely chrome work on his body here, which thankfully on mine has held up pretty well. He's got the nice X there, since he was Protoform X in the show. But yeah, no, I absolutely love the look of the crab mode. I believe he's supposed to be a king crab, but the claws are just really, really cool looking. I love the like chrome detail there and all the nice painted detail. I just think that looks super nice. In terms of an articulation in this mode, he's got quite a bit. The jaw can open and close like that, though you're also kind of splitting the head there. And then each of the little antenna is on ball joints, so you can rotate those around. I am missing the gun, unfortunately, which pegs on underneath and gives him the bottom jaw of his crab mode. So mine is not quite complete. It was just a lot easier to find it on eBay a while ago that way. I'd still like to get the gun, since it does kind of complete the the tertiary tank mode, and it does also, actually store properly in alt mode. I don't know if it has anywhere to go in robot mode. I've never really, looked into it that much, but still it'd be a nice accessory to have. But the claws here have a bunch of joints. This it can swivel here. It's on kind of like a soft ratchet. It goes, I would assume, all the way around, and then there's a hinge here, there's a hinge here, there's a hinge here, and that hinge is also on a swivel, and then there's also a swivel above that, which the bottom claw also can move separately on. It can hinge up like this, but the bottom bit of the claw can't, so I don't know if that's really all that useful in this mode. And then the bottom part here has this hinge here and this hinge here, and the top one can rotate out like that, and that's about as far in as it goes. So really, really versatile articulation on the claws there. And then the legs here, each of the front two are on ball joints at the hip there, and then ball joints at the knee. And then the back leg here is also on a ball joint at the knee, but it also swivels up and down like this, but it does have these like locking spots, so it's either here or here, but because there's like so much space in between those locking spots, you really can get it to sit in the middle if you want to. It's just not really like actually clicked in. And then there is also a swivel here for transformation. So usually what I'll do in crab mode is actually, bring those in between the clicks and have it sitting back like that, just because I feel like that looks a little bit more natural. He can't obviously really hold his weight with these little like ball joint claws. I've gotten ways where it's worked if you like rotate these around certain ways so that the ball joint can't, compress upward. It's not impossible, but you have to like really bring it down like that, and it helps if the claws are actually, still kind of making contact with the ground. So with that, he definitely can't hold up the weight of himself with the claws up in the air, just because the claws are really, really heavy, but you can get it like that, and I don't think it looks like especially good. I think he looks better just kind of resting on the ground with all the legs just kind of posed like they're holding him up, but it's an option. You can do that. It's just not super fantastic looking in my opinion, but yeah, no, he's a pretty decent crab mode. Ooh, they popped a ball joint there. I love all the painted detail on there. I think that, it's nice that the chrome is actually held up on mine, because that really does make him pop. And just his sheer size alone, I think, really makes him stand out on the shelf. But yeah, in terms of comparisons in this mode, just for a standard one, here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe in his robot mode. So you can see how he stacks up against a modern average deluxe. You can see he can really, he's really quite massive. You can like hold him like that, which is pretty cool. And then just another funny comparison is here he is with Beast Wars Razor Claw. I just find it really funny that the two Predacons in Beast Wars that are named after the original G1 Predacons are, both crabs, Razor Claw and Rampage. I just thought that was funny, but That's what the two of them look like together. But yeah, to get onto transformation here, first we're going to go to his tertiary mode, which is a tank, which is actually a pretty cool tank on this guy. Unfortunately, I don't have the gun, so he kind of just becomes a crab on treads, but he does have moving treads, which is a really impressive accomplishment. So first thing you want to do is you want to take the back legs here and then rotate them around like that, and then rotate these bits around so they stick up like that. Basically just so all these wheels are sitting against the ground, and then you can kind of just take these legs and just kind of prop them up like that. We'll kind of readjust them once we get the treads out, but then for each of the claws here, there's kind of a very specific motion that you want to do. You want to rotate it down like that. You want to rotate it so that, well, I usually keep it so that the purple bit is facing outward, but you want to rotate it around like that. Take the second hinge and fold it up like that, and then you can rotate this in, rotate the claw around, and then use that joint there to get it up like that. And then you want to bring it down on this joint, bring this forward, and then click this up like that. So basically you're maneuvering it so that this peg here on the arm can go into this hole on the claw itself. And it's you know, it's easy to do once you know where all the joints go, but it can be kind of a puzzle to figure it out if you forget. And then you just take this and kind of fold it up like that, like a bumper. And then obviously do that on both sides here. Bring that down, bring that down. Bring that joint down like that, rotate it up. You know, you can do that either way, but I usually like to do it so that the chrome purple detailing is actually facing up. And then bring the claw in like that, and then in like that, so it can peg into place. It also does peg in here to the chrome section as well. And then bring the claw forward as a bumper. And then the real cool bit of this guy's transformation is from inside the claws, he actually does have these rubber treads folded up, which you bring around and you stretch so that they actually sit over the wheels. And you can give him actual notionally functional tank treads, which I think is really, really cool, that he can actually do this. And I don't know, I usually like to just like rotate the antenna to the back just to change up something about the inner body. But yeah, there we have Rampage in his tank mode. And like I said, if you had the gun, it would flip around and point forward in this mode. So, you know, it does kind of complete it as an actual tank. But even just as a sort of, you know, like tread-bound crab, I think that this is a really, really cool alternate mode. You can actually get the treads to go if you push them down and rotate them around, which is really, really neat. Obviously, you know, these will not last forever, but if you keep them in a sort of, you know, like dry enough area, like you don't want to let too much humidity into the room, then they'll last a bit longer. But for now, at least mine feel still pretty good, which I feel good about. But yeah, I don't know that will actually last forever, but it's just the fact that you can get this guy have functional treads, and part of the transformation is actually like unhooking the treads from the wheels. Cause like the only other times that we've had like functional treads, the only other time I can think of is like Combiner Wars leader Megatron, and his was because he just had separate chunks that like stayed untouched throughout the transformation. Whereas this guy actually uses these sections and you just kind of like bunch up the treads inside the claws, which I think is really, really cool. But yeah, you know, obviously comparisons is about the same in this mode. There he is with Sideswipe if you want him riding a crab tank there. That's what that looks like. But yeah, to get onto the rest of the transformation, obviously we'll just unhook the treads here, and you kind of just bunch them up in here. What I usually do is I usually like fold them over halfway and then just like push them to the inside. They're a little bit wider than the, you know, the like inner claw bit of the tread. So when you push them in, you kind of have to like push them past, and that's what actually allows them to stay in place. Which works honestly better than I would expect it to. Like sometimes they pop out a little bit, but it's not too bad. But it's just a really neat sort of transformation step there. And then we can kind of unhook the claws here. And unfortunately for this guy, these do just kind of end up being like huge kibbly bits on the back. So you pretty much just like rotate them back. Now, there's a few different things you can do with these. What I generally do, I mean, what it shows in the show is them kind of just like hanging off like this, which makes it really hard for them to stand. So what I generally do is I bring up this joint like this, and then rotate this around so that it can come down on this joint and then fold it to the side like that, and then just have the claws kind of sit down on the back of it, so it sits kind of like that. I feel like that's the best way for me. So kind of, you know, even just angle that bit up a little bit. But you know, they have a decent amount of versatility to them, but they are just going to be kind of chunks hanging off the back no matter which way you do it. So it's just a matter of like what you think looks the best, what you think is actually going to give him the best sort of balance in robot mode, and that's the best way that I've kind of discovered. And then his robot mode legs are just folded up underneath here. You just unfold them at the knee, unfold them at the feet and heel, and then rotate this whole section down like that. Then we can take this entire section with the back legs, and we'll actually unclip from the side here. I usually kind of push it up when I unclick it, just because it, you know, if you're just like yanking it, sometimes it's like it can be kind of bad for that joint. So I usually try to, you know, ease up the tension and push it up there a little bit. The arms, which have the front two legs, are actually pegged in there. So you want to just unpeg those and then bring these up as shoulder pads. And then you can kind of unfold the arms. Unfortunately, he does just have these like big kibbly bits hanging off of his arms. So I usually just kind of fold them up like that to keep them the most out of the way, but they're always, again, a little bit in the way. That's the unfortunate thing about this guy, is he's very, very kibbly in his robot mode. And then you just take this section here with the crab head and the robot mode head, and you rotate that around, and you want to make sure that you push the robot mode head through as soon as you can, because otherwise if it stays locked in there, then it can be kind of hard to get out, which is, yeah, I'll talk about it in a sec, but yeah. But there we have Rampage in his robot mode. Obviously going to have to adjust the camera here a bit. Because this guy gets quite tall in his robot mode here. But yeah, no, he looks fantastic, all things considered. I mean, kibbliness aside, and you know, there's a few things you can do with these legs. What I usually like to do is I usually like to rotate them up like this, and then rotate this bit back, and then kind of have them folded up like that. You can't really get it super accurate to how it was in the show, unfortunately, because in the show, all of the legs kind of ended up on his shoulder pads rather than having the ones sort of hang off of his arms. So they were all kind of like dangling up over. Like, you can kind of accomplish it if you have the arms sitting still, if you just like rotate these back and kind of like have them sitting up over the shoulder pads, but it doesn't really look quite right. And also it means that like when you move the arms, those kind of separate. So yeah, you know, doesn't really work. But yeah, no, I usually just make the best of it and kind of fold it in like that. He's gonna have kibbly bits no matter what. That's the thing about this guy, is that he's very much like, oh, here's the inner robot and here's all the crab stuff kind of just hanging off of him. And you know, all things considered, I think he wears it okay. It's not unusual for the Beast Wars toy line to have like buggy type characters just have their legs kind of hanging off of them. But yeah, no, wonderful head sculpt. I think he looks really nice there. In terms of articulation, the head is on a ball joint, which can rotate around like that. It can also look up, but unfortunately, if you push it too far up, it's really, really difficult to get a hold of it, to get it back up. So you kind of have to like undo the chest and push it up from underneath. Which can be a little bit annoying, because the ball joint definitely, you know, is not as tight as it once was. So it does have a tendency to kind of droop down like that, which is pretty annoying, but whatever. The shoulders are on swivels here, and then also a hinge out to the side, though obviously, you know, you kind of have to work around all the kibble. It's got a bicep swivel here, a really deep elbow bend for transformation. You can rotate these. They have their own kind of separate like clicky rotation, so you can rotate them down like that, or you can rotate them up so they're sitting off the back, though they end up just like bumping into stuff in the back. I usually just keep them the way that they are, just because, you know, it might not be the most elegant looking, but they actually stay the most out of the way when you have them like that. But you do have those options there. Nothing at the waist. He has ball joints at the hips, which can only go about that far out to the side. I love the way his legs are done too, with all this nice, you know, I like the like overspray that they do with the orange. It really just gives him a lot of really nice depth. He doesn't have any thigh swivel, just aside from the ball joint that the hip is on, which thankfully is a big enough ball joint that it gives him like a pretty decent amount of like thigh swivel, but he doesn't have any actual dedicated thigh joint. And then he's got really deep knees for transformation, and then the feet, both the feet and the heel, can tilt up and down, but sort of not together. Like this is as far up as the heel goes and this is as far up as the foot goes, so you can bring the foot down and you can bring the heel down, but you're not actually adjusting the angle of the flat foot, which honestly is a good thing, because like these feet are really, you know, having to hold a lot of top weight here with all the claws and everything like that. So if he had like forward and back ankle tilt, then I just think that he would fall over a lot of the time, honestly. But yeah, no, pretty decent, honestly. Like, you know, he stands a little bit better than you'd expect him to with all this stuff, but it's not hard to knock him over. There goes that head again. But he does have kind of a few annoying qualities of handling him, like the head thing. The crab head doesn't really peg into place, so like when you're like moving the arms, that wants to happen. You know, the bug legs kind of bumping into stuff back here. It's just like, you know, he's you kind of just get him standing there and looking menacing like he did in the show, and that's all you really get for him. Like you can get him into poses, but it's kind of an uphill battle in terms of like working with all the mass here. But yeah, in terms of comparisons in this mode, here he is again with Kingdom Sideswipe, just so you can see what he looks like with an average Modern Deluxe. And for an average Modern Leader class comparison, here he is with Studio Series Grimlock. So you can see he's definitely got a lot of mass, but he's not like super tall. He only comes up to about, you know, the chest on Grimlock there. And then just for posterity's sake, here he is again with Razor Claw. So you can see Razor Claw and Rampage together. Not quite what they once were in terms of the you know, G1 Predacons. But yeah, no, he's a really fun figure. He's got a lot of really nice like painted and sculpted detail. He's definitely like a mess, but at least the mess is sort of accurate to how he was in the show, so it doesn't really bother me as long as you can get him standing. Like he's one that is like, if we never got an update of him, I'd be okay, because he looks great on the shelf. He's kind of a pain to handle a lot of the time, but I love the crab mode, I love the tank mode, I love the robot mode, and then obviously, you know, if you have the gun, he could hold the gun here. And like I said before, I don't know if it has any dedicated place to store, but he does have, you know, like the same ports all over the claw, just like for the screw holes. So you could probably peg it on there somewhere. I've never had the gun, so I've never tried that. But, you know, there's probably something you could do with it, just because there's enough sort of extraneous stuff kind of hanging off of him to actually work with there. But yeah, no, he's not all out to say about him. He's a great figure, definitely a bit messy, but in a pretty charming way. I think he wears it well. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to him. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Make sure to check me out on my Instagram account. That's toys.n.art. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Beast Wars Transmetal Rampage.